All right, so we are live. Thanks a lot, guys, for joining in. It's a pleasure to have Kunal with us today. And this is going to be like one of the most productive sessions because Kunal is, I think, one of the most active open source contributor that I know of. If you check his Twitter, he's always posting good stuff. He also runs a community called Code for Cause. And I'm part of the Discord and I also follow the YouTube channel. And they put out a bunch of amazing things. And I was surprised that, dude, is this actually free? Because this content is supposed to be a paid course somewhere in Udemy or Coursera, but this guy is just out there sharing whatever he knows about for free, which is pretty commendable. And today we're going to talk about a bunch of things about open source. At the end, we're going to touch it up with some machine learning things. And Kunal is really sophisticated. He's like a very technical guy. I'll make sure that things are, sort of generalized so that everyone gets it. Yeah, Kunal, just give a quick introduction, who you are, from which college, where do you live, and how do you get started with coding in the first place?
First of all, thanks for having me, Harish. Really excited to be here. Love what you're doing for the community, and I saw your YouTube channel. It's really great, and really some awesome content over there. So keep up the good work. Yeah, hello everyone. My name is Kunal. I am a junior from Maharaja Agreshan Institute of Technology. For those of you who don't know, it's a college under IP University in New Delhi. So I am a student there. I am pursuing my computer science and engineering, BTech. I am an open source enthusiast. So I've been contributing to open source ever since I was in my freshman year. So I ever since then, like, I knew that if I want to gain some real world experience or like get out of my comfort zone, learn something new, then open source is definitely going to help me a lot, and it has. And ever since then, I've been a part of various programs. I've been going to a lot of events. I love meeting new people. I love interacting with people. I love teaching. I like Harish mentioned, I have a YouTube channel. Over there we conducted like complete boot camps on like machine learning, Python, data structures, algorithms. So if you're interested in getting started with these things, then do check it out. The links are in the description. Other than that, I have been involved in various open source programs like Google Summer of Code, Google Code In, programs by various communities, volunteering programs. Recently, the Major League Hacking Fellowship, and currently I am running the community as one of the co-founders at Code for Cause. I am a junior, like I'm a team leader at the current batch of the MLH Fellowship for their open source and the Explorer program. I am also currently an intern at the Cloud Native Computing Foundation, and I'm working on the project called Thanos. So yeah, that that Thanos is the one
I
from
think.
Avengers. Yeah,
Mhm. Okay, talk about the
so that is.
countries that you got to travel for free just because you're contributing to open source.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just like it's related to, see, in open
Mm-hmm.
source, if you're contributing to a project, if it's a really big project, then they have a sort of like a conference for that. Similarly,
Mm-hmm.
I have been working with Kubernetes, so they have this conference of cloud native computing foundation has this conference called KubeCon for all the cloud native tech conferences. So around 13,000 people attend every year, around 200 plus sponsors, I believe, like Google, Red Hat, Microsoft, any company you can imagine is over there. And
Mm-hmm.
it's just a really great way to network with people. So yeah, I mean, I was contributing. I applied for their like travel fund scholarship. So they offer those like to students and other people. And
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned in my, like, if you are an open source contributor, or if you have some uh, contributions in the community related to that particular conference, then your chances get increased to get that scholarship, obviously. So
Mm-hmm.
if you have some work done that so I had open source work, and I got to travel for free, like to KubeCon, like San Diego. I went to like South Korea. I went to a bunch of other states in in the United States, like New York,
Mm-hmm.
Vegas. And recently I was also going to go to Europe, but then COVID happened.
Go ahead.
So, yeah, so that I then the event went virtual, so I attended
Mm-hmm.
it virtually. I had to cancel my flights and everything, so that was really not a good
Yeah.
thing, but uh, that's fine. I mean,
So
maybe
you're in like
next
your
year.
third year of college, and I mean you've accomplished quite a lot. When do you get started? Like, where do you like formally start learn to code?
Yeah, To be honest, I haven't really accomplished that much. It's because it's just that these
Humble guy.
programs and stuff. No, it's
Mm-hmm.
really true. I know how much I have accomplished, and I know what other people think of me. So I know people
Mm-hmm.
who are way better, who have accomplished much more than me, and
Mm-hmm.
it's all because uh, I owe everything like to open source only. So most of my experiences that I have gotten have been via open source, and most of the internships experiences and uh, internship opportunities, interview opportunities I have gotten, open source has helped me a lot in that as well. Currently, I got like an internship at HackerRank for like 2021, I believe in the
Mm-hmm.
winters, and that was really that was also I mean in that particular like the interviews they asked me about like my gsoc work and stuff, so what
Mm-hmm.
I worked on like my tech projects and stuff, so that's good. And all these opportunities that I have gotten has been via open source and off
Mm-hmm.
campus. So my college
Yeah.
has no influence on that. It's totally open source and community. And
Mm-hmm.
the one thing I can suggest you all is open source opens a lot of doors for you, especially if you're a student. So it's not like you have to be a part of any program to contribute.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like you have to be a gsoc student. If you don't get selected, then also you can get those benefits of open source software development, even if you're not like a gsoc student or something. And that is also going to really help you. So
Mm-hmm.
don't be demotivated if you don't get selected for gsoc or something, because it's fine. There are a lot of programs. And by the way, that reminds me, I created a video on 20 plus open source programs you can apply to. So check it out on my channel, code for cause. That I
Yeah,
just
that's pretty
just
good.
remember that. Yeah.
Like,
So,
people just talk about Google Summer of Code, but
hmm.
you've made them explore some other options as well.
Yeah, I mean 20 plus in that video. Even
Mm-hmm.
Microsoft has an open source program. Did anyone know that?
Mm-hmm. All right. So
Microsoft has one
before
for people who are interested in machine learning. Yeah, go ahead.
so before we get into these programs, let's start from the basics. What is open source in simple terms?
Yeah, so open source can have like different meanings. It depends on like the license. Most people have this misconception that open source means free. So that is not
Mm-hmm.
true. People, you can see that Red Hat, for example. So most of their projects are open sourced, but they
Mm-hmm.
still have like $1 billion of evaluation per year. So how do they do that? You can earn via open source, and the thing that helps in doing that is SaaS, or software as a service infrastructure. So even though the code and everything is open sourced, but the services that they offer on top of that, let's take WordPress for example. Okay, WordPress is
Mm-hmm.
open source, people use it for free, but they have additional membership thing. So that is how they earn. You know,
So what
Red Hat.
exactly do they provide in the premium version? How is it different from
In the premium
normal?
version, they can provide you, let's say, some cloud storage in WordPress. I believe I'm not sure, but
Mm-hmm.
I do know that the WordPress has like a premium version. Red Hat, the Red Hat products can provide like one-on-one support with their
Mm-hmm.
engineers, things like that. Other than that, their infrastructure and all those things. So yeah, I mean you can look at their products like OpenShift and stuff. Quarkus, and these go pretty well with the containerized applications that are written in Java and stuff. So they can offer that infrastructure and all those things for you. And even though the code is open source, you can contribute to it. But if you want to use it, then there's an option for you to get those premium services as well. So open source
Mm-hmm.
does not mean free. Open source does not mean that people cannot charge you. But speaking from like a student's point of view, open source as in freely accessible. So free to access, free to like reuse depending on the license, free to modify, and take an example for, let's say, Android. So Android is an open source operating system from Google, but many other companies use it. OnePlus, Oppo, Samsung, and all these companies use it. So when Google releases an update, the update goes to everyone because everyone has the core thing is same. On top of that,
Mm-hmm.
they have modified Android, added their own skins and stuff. So that is completely fine. Linux, for example, so Linux is an open source kernel, and you can like modify it, any distro, let's say Ubuntu or something. So you can modify that according to your needs. All of these is open source, rather than, let's say, Windows, which is proprietary software, and there's a lot less customization available over there. So totally like depends on you. And there are a few people I know who prefer open source software above all the other softwares, and some people are like partial, so some open source, some proprietary. I belong to those kinds of people. So I use some paid services, some open source
Mm-hmm.
services. Yeah.
Okay, got it, got it. And taking the perspective of a company, say why would a company like Microsoft not make their things open source while a company like Red Hat thinks that making it open source makes sense? Like, what's the difference over
Yeah.
there?
First of all, Microsoft has been one of the largest contributors in open source for the past few years. They have
Mm-hmm.
been contributing to open source really a lot. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not true that Microsoft does not participate in open source. They do, and they
No, I
do
meant
it really.
Microsoft as a
Yeah,
software, like Windows as a software.
yeah. A few are like proprietary. So that's something that they have. But most of like they have an option for like if someone wants to get involved in Microsoft open source, there's an option
Mm-hmm.
for that. Similarly, there's for Facebook as well, Facebook open source. So projects like React Native, Jest, so these
Mm-hmm.
are all open source. I contributed to Jest during my fellowship. It was a great experience, and open source like Facebook also has open source projects that you can contribute to. Google has, Red Hat has. So all these companies are like doing things in that world. And to answer your question, why it happens is first of all like the flexibility that people get, and there's this thing called like what is the word I'm looking, like cost efficiency, and
Mm-hmm.
the ability to like attract people to contribute, to attract let's say better, let's say talent, or people who want to uh, you know con- uh, contribute to their projects. So if you
Mm-hmm.
first like if you look at the open source world, people are actually really interested in contributing to the projects that they really like. That is the whole
Mm-hmm.
open source ecosystem. So that is one way that the companies benefit, and they attract the better talent, and they can also like it's also about the future. So open source is the future, because many like web applications, and recently like if you talk about data analytics, so most of the data analytics softwares are open sourced, you can say.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that is the reason they are to answer it in one line, open source is a really good investment for a company for the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Makes sense
That's
because,
my
instead of
yeah.
having like an in-house team of say three, four people,
Hmm.
you just have three brains working on the product anyway. Instead, why not spread it to the world? Maybe if
Absolutely.
someone wants to build out a feature, they can build it out themselves.
Yeah, and you can also like the companies also share the costs. So instead of कि पूरा code मैं ही लिखूंगा,
Mm-hmm.
ऐसा नहीं
Mm.
होता. So they are like distributing that everyone is
Yeah.
so that it's a little bit cost efficient to the company as well. And there's also like what is it like you can I mean brainstorm a little bit better, so you can start small and then grow
Mm-hmm.
that idea into a big idea. So many
Mm-hmm.
open source projects that I know, many famous open source projects actually have started from an idea taken from a proprietary software. So
Mm-hmm.
you take a look
Makes
at
sense. Yeah.
Prometheus. So
Mm-hmm.
it was inspired by a monitoring tool they had at Google. You
Mm-hmm.
take a
Even
look at
LibreOffice is open source, right?
yeah. So all these things are like inspired by proprietary software. So my MLS fellowship mentor was like, he was using something for note taking, and he was like, I don't like this, that I'm going to pay for it. How difficult would it be to create this in open source? So he created,
Mm-hmm.
and it got like more than 5,000 stars on GitHub in just under a week. It
Wow.
blew up that project, and now it's really a popular project in like the web development and note taking world. Yeah.
Insane.
Other than
So,
that, you get swags. So you can see swag, swag, swag. I have a lot of swags. Yeah. So you get a lot of swags as well if you contribute to open source. Yeah.
yeah, I think that's like one of the most motivating factors for students. Um,
Yeah. But sadly it is.
yeah.
It like shouldn't be, but it is. But that's fine. I mean, we have all been there.
Hmm. So let's take the students' perspective now. Why do you think so many people want to apply for open source programs? Maybe something like gsoc, right? The moment you hear about it, students start questioning what's the procedure, how do I prepare for it? Why do you think there is the hype around open source among a lot of
Yeah.
college students?
The hype started developing for Google Summer of Code because they used to give referrals
Hmm.
to students who were like gsoc students. So if
Okay.
someone got selected in gsoc, they got a referral for Google, so they could apply
Mm-hmm.
to Google for like either an internship or something via using that referral.
Mm-hmm.
They don't do that now. So in Google Summer of Code, they don't really give a referral now. They just give you a
Mm-hmm.
certificate, stipend, and you get to work with the organization that you apply to. Something specifically like about Google Summer of Code, to answer your question, it's, I believe, mainly people are really attracted with the Google tag,
Yeah,
and
true.
they don't really realize that it has nothing to do with Google. So if you're a
Mm-hmm.
Google Code student, you're not working for Google, you're not an intern at Google, you don't have any direct relation with Google, and Google is not going to look at your code. Google is not going to pass you or fail you. Google is not going to be aware of, like, the Google engineers are not looking into what you're doing. Then
Okay.
actually the question arises, who is doing all that? Who is
Mm-hmm.
reviewing our code? Whom are we contributing to? And all these things. So it's actually the organization. So there are a few organizations, let's say 200 organizations that apply to gsoc. Once
Mm-hmm.
they are selected, the students apply directly to these organizations. All the
Mm-hmm.
communication is going to happen with you and the organization, not
Okay.
between you, but not between you and Google. So you are a
Got it.
student for that organization. And in
Mm-hmm.
the this is a really good point. On LinkedIn, people write Google Summer of Code intern at Google. So Google actually had to send us a mail. So Google sent us a mail that, guys, please don't do this. Uh,
Yeah.
ऐसे काम मत करो. You are not an intern at Google. You are working as a student for
Yeah.
that organization. So if
Mm-hmm.
people are writing like that, similar same thing happened for like many other programs like Microsoft Student Partner Program. So people are
Mm-hmm.
like, Microsoft Student Partner at Microsoft under work experience. So I just went to my, like, I was looking for someone to ask for a referral for Microsoft.
Yeah. Yeah.
I went to LinkedIn, I searched for people who work at Microsoft. In my connection, there were 2,000. So I was like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I have 2,000 people at Microsoft. So then I went and I saw student partner, student partner, student partner, student partner. So that is something that the people at Microsoft, like the student partner program managers, have also said that put it
Mm-hmm.
under your volunteering section or like a community section. It's not
Mm-hmm.
like a work experience section. So yeah, these are
True.
the general, like, that some people are like misguided about. And if Google Summer Code is a great thing. Okay, first of all, I'm not saying that you should not apply. Definitely apply, like, if you don't get selected, apply again next year. It's completely like a great program. The thing I want to point out over here is that if you're not a gsoc student, you're not missing out on much, because you can still contribute to open source and get those benefits. The only thing you won't be getting is a stipend and a certificate. That's it.
Okay. And is there like an age limit or something for Google Summer of Code?
The thing is, this year they changed the entire upside down and entire program. So
Uh-huh.
now I believe it's completely new. If you haven't seen it, I mean, I was a gsoc mentor this year, and during the gsoc summit, they announced these changes. So they will be sending out a official documentation for that. I don't know if I'm supposed to reveal it or not, but they have changed
Mm-hmm.
quite a lot of things. So even the eligibility criteria and the full-time, part-time positions have also changed. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
like working 3 months, students will now get to work for like a month or two or something. I don't know,
Mm-hmm.
something like way less than amount of time. And I believe the stipend, it's also reduced in half.
What
So
was it earlier?
3,000 US dollars for India,
Mm-hmm.
and
For 3 months or 1 month?
for 3 months. So I
Okay.
believe that is reduced. But again, it's not about the money. It's about the what the program has to offer in terms of open source. And
Mm-hmm.
do check out the uh, GSOC blog for announcements. I believe they will send it during the last week of October. So if
When does
there
when
are
does it
changes
start? When do the applications start?
around March.
Okay.
Yeah, I have done like a detailed video on that. So I mean, on my
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
channel, there's like a lot of content, but the link is in the description. You can check it out later.
I'll link it up. I'll link it up.
Yeah, sure.
So you said, say Google Summer of Code doesn't allow you to get a job at Google. It has like almost no affiliation with Google. But do you think it in a way helps you get jobs in general, like maybe in other companies? Does it add to your credibility to, sort of apply
Yeah.
for internships or
The,
jobs?
the, the thing is that I didn't say that GSOC is not going to help you get a job at Google. I said that you are
Mm-hmm.
not going to get the referral that you used to get. So to answer your question that, is Google Summer Code going to help me get a job at Google? In a way, because if you have it on your
Okay.
resume, then they can sort of like shortlist you or something. So they have that, they know that you have been a Google Summer Code student, so you know how it's like to work in a team. The thing I want to say is it's not concrete. So it's not like 100% true that if you have gsoc on your resume will get shortlisted, because I
Mm-hmm.
believe they have this. I'm not sure. Like it's totally like up to. Uh, it also depends on other thing. Basically, in one line, if I could say, is that it's not like कि GSOC कर लो दुनिया के सारे काम हो जाएंगे. That is completely
Mm-hmm.
not true. If you do GSOC and you think कि यार now I have done GSOC, I don't need to do anything else, so that is wrong. If you have done Google Summer of Code, continue getting new experiences, learn new things, do competitive programming, really important if you want to get a
Mm-hmm.
job or internship at these companies. So it's not like if you do gsoc then your uh, selection is like 100%, and it's not also that if you do gsoc then your selection is like 0%. It's sort of like it adds an extra edge, you can say, something a little
Mm-hmm.
bit more to add to your resume. But other than that, if you have in general open source contributions, that is also a really good thing. So I
Mm-hmm.
didn't say like GSOC is not going to help you, but it can help you in like gaining that experience, meeting with other people, having something to put on your resume and stuff. And yeah,
So someone's saying basically like IIT, which is true. A lot of people in 12th grade, especially, they're like, all right, once I crack IIT, once I get into NIT bits or these colleges, I'm pretty much
yeah,
set. But yeah, it never settles. I mean, there's no settling point in life. You just have to move on.
yeah.
Um,
Um, the thing is like the heart desires what it desires. So once you get into IIT, then you aim. Once you see once
exactly.
you're in ninth standard, talking about like when we were in school. So then you
Mm-hmm.
aim for key. I want to get science PCM or PCMC or
Mm.
PCMP,
Board exam.
whatever it is. Board exams. So then you're like, कि science मिल गई अब तो I'll prepare for like JEE, and then you prepare for JEE, and then you're like, I'll prepare for advanced, and then you prepare for advanced, and you get, let's say, IIT, and then you go to IIT, then you're like, कि, now companies, and so on and so forth. So it's
Yeah.
totally like, what I would say is like, do your best. Don't really worry about what the outcome is. Just do your best.
And another important thing that you pointed out was like, do not, uh, do it for the sake of the stipend or for the sake of the Google tag.
Yeah,
Just do it because you want to contribute to open source and make softwares better. Having
absolutely. Like,
that motivation
yeah,
would
that
keep you
reminds me
going.
that reminds me about something. Like, I was at Manipal Jaipur giving a talk on Docker and stuff. Over there
Hmm.
there were people from like Google California.
Oh.
So they were having some technical difficulties, and they were like just interacting with the general audience. Someone in the audience came up and asked a question that, hey, hello ma'am, can you suggest some tips for getting selected in Google Summer of Code? Now they work at
Hmm.
Google. They were like, what is Google Summer of Code? So that it's not that popular in the outside world. So even
Yeah.
if you that should tell you that it's sort of like overhyped in India. And even like if you do gsoc completely, that's really great, and congratulations. This point is specifically for people who aren't able to get selected. So one
Hmm.
thing I want to share is there's not always the real reason to find out why you weren't selected. Sometimes even the deserving people don't get selected because Google does not provide enough slots to the organizations. So that does not mean you're not good enough. It just means that if you contribute to open source in general as well, that is also having a good amount on your resume. That is going to add a good amount of it. I saw a YouTube video. People were like, there was this person, I don't remember the name. He started the video with आज बात करते हैं गूगल समर कोड के बारे में. ये एक ऐसा सर्टिफिकेट है कि अगर आपके रेज्यूमे पे है तो आपको कोई भी कंपनी उठा लेगी. तो ऐसा नहीं होता है. Not every company is going to hire you just because you are a GSOC student. You need to
Yeah.
work even harder and work on your, please don't skip your competitive programming thing. So that is really,
Hmm.
really important in your interviews and everywhere they ask competitive
Okay.
programming. So
Okay,
that's
just to
important.
summarize, the open source programs like gsoc, what do you think is an ideal roadmap that leads you? Like, say I am someone who doesn't even know C++ syntax. How do I get
Yeah,
started from zero to a position where I can, apply to these programs or at least have a shot at
yeah,
these programs? Like, at least
yeah, sure.
maybe you can talk 5 minutes about the entire roadmap that leads to this particular position.
Yeah, sure. And that is a really, valid question. And like, what are like the tips and tricks to get selected in Google Summer of Code? That's a completely valid question. I mean, who doesn't want to get selected for GSOC, right? It's a really great program. You get to meet with a lot of people and stuff. So yeah, I mean, what I can suggest you is it's in parts. So the first part of it is similar to contributing to any other open source organization. The second part is selectively for GSOC. So so I'll go ahead with the first part first. So the first part is like not just for gsoc but in general open source. And if you follow this, you should follow this for gsoc as well, because gsoc and open source same thing. So the first part is like what is the first part? Yeah. So the first part is pick up an organization, obviously. So if you need to contribute to open source, you need to have an organization. And let's talk about, you said that someone who is a beginner in coding, right? Someone who doesn't know much about coding, let's learning C++ or something. So there are two approaches to this. First approach is a top-down approach. Second is a bottom-up approach. Now, in these two approaches, um, there's one thing in common, which is the learning curve. Okay, so there's a learning curve involved in this. And what is the top-down approach? First, you like select the organization, and like then you learn the skills that are required in that organization's projects. Second thing can be that you can first learn the skills, and then you can select the organization that uses those skills. Now, coming to your question, if someone is a beginner, let's say, so if you're a beginner, first thing like you need to know is obviously one programming language of your choice. Second thing is basic to medium knowledge of your tech stack. Third thing is you need to know about Git. So Git and GitHub. All right. So that is what you need to know. And if you have like a basic knowledge of your tech stack and all these things that I just mentioned, then comes the part of actually like contributing to open source. So how do we do that? You go to the, let me just share my screen for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'll add it to the screen.
can you see the Google Summer of Code archive?
Yep.
All right. So
You
go to
can
this website.
zoom it in a bit.
Can you see it now?
Better. Yeah.
Yeah. So go to this website, summerofcodewithgoogle.com. Over here, you can see all the archives, like all the projects for the past. Click on this link for any particular year. And these are all the organizations you can see. So these are all the organizations that took part in Google Summer of Code. Now, the thing is that, you need to spend some time in going through these organizations. So there's this thing like, let's say I like Java. So I can just write Java over here. So this is going to show me all the like organizations and stuff that use Java. Instead, if you want to filter it by category, so web development, science, and end user applications, cloud, graphics, security, operating systems, databases, stuff like that. So you can filter it by categories as well. So this is a really hectic process, because obviously selecting a selecting an organization can be a really long process, but that is what we have to go through. So once you have selected like a few organizations, then click on this link, like of that organization. It will bring you to this organization, and after that you can click on this link called view idea list. So click on this link called view idea list. Here's where it gets interesting. So idealist kya hota hai? What is an idealist? Idealist is basically a list of all the projects that are currently active in this organization. So these are all the projects that are active in this organization. So click on any of these projects. Let's say I click on this project. So this is a summary of the idea that what this project does. Okay. And what are the tasks and what is the required knowledge? GitHub repository. Let's click on the GitHub repository. Skill level required, intermediate, and the mentors. So in gsoc, you're assigned mentors, so you can contact them over here. The first thing you have to do once you select the project, so let's say you selected 3 projects, okay? It's advisable to just go for one organization, because give your 100% in just one organization rather than, thoda thoda har organization mein, because quality matters more than quantity. So what you can do over here is, before even contributing, use the project first. So if you don't know what the project does, तो काफी मुश्किल होगी contribute करने में. So first, use the project before contributing. So it's going to make things much easier for you. After that, try to set it up on your local system. Join the mailing list. And the mailing list is basically, because this is a really big project, so you are obviously going to have doubts. You're going to get stuck. You're going to not understand something in the code base. So where do you ask those doubts? In the mailing list. What is a mailing list? Sort of like a group chat something. So all the people who are maintaining this project, who created this project, who contribute to this project, are hanging out in the mailing list. So make sure you ask all the doubts in the public channel. You don't spam, and you just ask relevant doubts, and don't DM anyone unnecessarily. After that, go to this issues section and click on good first issues. So these are the issues that are good first issues, means like these are the easy issues for you to get started with, and that is how you get started with open source.
That's amazing,
So
man.
yeah,
Thanks for that.
yeah. So check out this particular thing that I just mentioned to you all, right? So this particular thing that you just mentioned, um, these this entire selection of like selecting an organization, and then going through the issues, selecting like beginner friendly issues and stuff like that. This is the process to get involved in any open source project. There's no shortcut. So
Mhm.
there is going to be like there is going to be like obviously a learning curve involved. And the thing I want to point out over here is that even if you have like 30 to 40% of the knowledge. So I was a gsoc student in my first year, and I learned most of the things while I was contributing. So while you are contributing, then also you can learn. So if you have like, let's say, if there's like 100% of technology stack mentioned, but you are like, I only know like 30 to 40%, so should I even apply? The answer is yes, definitely. So yeah, that is about it. And
Amazing.
yeah.
So, what are the common languages that these open source projects use? Is it JavaScript or is it not language dependent? Like, what's the majority of these
Yeah.
projects?
ओके, सो मैं एक बहुत अच्छी टिप देने वाला हूँ सबको. तो इट्स स्पेसिफिक टू GSOC, एंड
Mm-hmm.
I mean specifically GSOC के लिए है, but like I mentioned that don't do GSOC just for the money and stuff, because the main idea for GSOC is what? Having students who are ready to become long-term contributors. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
so GSOC is not a certificate that is going to guarantee you, that अगर मैं GSOC अपने resume पे लिख दूं तो मतलब मेरे को तो job पक्का मिल जाएगा, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है. It's like you get that experience, and that adds a really positive value to your resume, and adds a really good see, getting a job is a step-by-step process. So you need to be good at CPP, like competitive programming. You need to have some experience. You need to have some, let's say, volunteering work or something. You need to have some projects on your resume. So these are like पार्ट में काफी सारी चीजें हैं. इसका एक छोटा सा पार्ट है गूगल समर ऑफ कोड. ओके, ब्रॉडर एस्पेक्ट में नहीं है कि अपने रेज्यूमे में मैंने सिर्फ गूगल समर ऑफ कोड लिख रखा है और कोई भी कंपनी मुझे ले लेगी. ब्रो, ऐसा नहीं होगा, और मेहनत करनी पड़ती है उसके बाद भी. ऑलराइट. So the thing I was mentioning, like the tips and tricks. So for GSOC specific, like see, you talked about programming languages and stuff, right? So programming languages, let's take a look into like basic probability. So most of the students are like doing web development, mobile development. So most of the students are going to apply to organizations that use like web development, mobile development. So there's going to be like more competition in these organizations, and hence the chances of getting selected for GSOC are going to be reduced for everyone. Let's take another example. Let's say there's a really difficult project, okay, Kubernetes or something. And let's say only, instead of 200 students applying, there are only 5 students working in that particular project. So competition कहाँ पे ज़्यादा है select होने का? जहाँ पे ज़्यादा लोग हैं, है ना? So the thing is that if like the thing is that if you definitely want to like increase your chances and even learn something new, then select a difficult project. So that is a tip I would give everyone.
Yeah, I
Because
mean,
you're also
basically
going to
that
get,
amount.
yeah, you'll get to learn something new, and you will get to learn something new, and you will get to also participate in these open source programs. So yeah, definitely.
Okay. So what's your approach towards learning something new? Say, if you're learning a programming language, what's your approach? Do you take courses, or do you just go through the documentation? Like, what's the process? Do you use Free Code Camp, by the way? Or do you use W3 schools?
Yeah,
What's the resources?
I did. Yeah, it's a really great resource. I mean, Free Code Camp is nice. When I was in my freshman year, there's this thing called MIT Open Courseware. So they have courses on like algorithms and stuff. So in MIT Open Courseware, there are courses for algorithms and like dynamic programming and stuff. So that is also really nice. And other than that, it totally like depends on person to person. Some people like learning from documentation. Some people like learning from YouTube or like videos. So whatever is like working for you, you should definitely look into it. But one thing like I would say is that whatever you're learning, make sure you apply
Mm-hmm.
that into some
Yeah.
some project or something. So it's not just
Mm-hmm.
कि मतलब you did a certificate and posted that certificate. You should also, let's say, build something. So कोई project बना लो, contribute to some open source projects, and if you learn something, make sure you're applying that skill to something. One more important point here is, like, I believe in a pie shape learning. So know everything about something and something about everything. So pie kaisa hota
Mm-hmm.
hai? Pie is like this. So you have two pillars and you have a horizontal line. So two pillars
Mm-hmm.
are like your strengths, and the horizontal line is like थोड़ा थोड़ा बाकी चीजों का भी मुझे idea है. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not like if you know about, let's say, web development, then you don't know anything about cloud. So you have
True.
just, I'm not saying be an expert in cloud. Just know little by little about it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So all of the things that you know today, these skills that you have acquired, is through these resources. I mean, mostly through Google, right? You just Google up things, and maybe
Yeah,
it's said that when you
Google
read
things.
the first 10 links of Google,
Yeah.
you just pretty much learn the entire concept.
Yeah, the thing is that there is a lot of, like, uh, the reason I started like Code for Cause is to remove this competitive culture among communities and open source which students have. So they treat Google
Mm-hmm.
Summer of Code like your JE Advance. That is a
Mm-hmm.
really bad thing. And to give you an idea, some popular YouTuber also posted something related to that on Hacktoberfest. So they were
Yeah,
like, "यार
that caused a
Hacktoberfest में
mess.
spam कर दो," and you all see what happened. Hacktoberfest में क्या हुआ? Spam हो गया, इंडियन कम्युनिटीज की नाम खराब हो
True.
गया, एंड सब बोल रहे थे कि यार इंडियंस लोग स्पैम करते हैं टी शर्ट्स के लिए. सो यही लोग कर रहे हैं ये सारी चीज़ें. एंड please don't have that competitive spirit. Open source जिसके लिए बना है, please contribute to open source in terms of, like, getting that experience and stuff, rather than having that competitive spirit. That is what happened in Hacktoberfest also this year. And yeah, just don't do
For
spamming and
some
stuff.
reason, I can imagine
Yeah.
like Whitehead Junior putting out an ad soon saying "Crack GSOC, just enroll with us."
See, I don't really. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I don't really know much about them, so I can't really
See,
say. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, see, like India is a very emotionally driven society,
Hmm.
so even companies know that, and that's what they
Yeah.
play around with.
Yeah, even like it or hate it, this is the truth. मेरी बात मत मानो. See what happened during Hacktoberfest. हो गया ना spam. uh, यही होता है. Yeah.
All right, so you said GSOC is very competitive. A lot of people apply. Any alternatives, like really quickly, a summary of the 20 skills, not 20 skills, 20 programs video that you made, a couple of other programs that you would like to state.
Yeah, sure. MLS fellowship is really good. You can apply to that, and the CNCF mentorship programs are really good. Linux Foundation programs are really
CNCF,
good.
right? CNCF.
CNCF, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Cloud Native Computing Foundation. So you can
Mm-hmm.
apply to that. You can apply to like some Linux Foundation program, and you can apply to what else? Outreachy. So Outreachy is also really nice, and for people who are in who are into machine learning. So there's this thing by Microsoft called reinforcement learning open source. So
Mm-hmm.
you can apply to that as well. And other than that, there are programs by many. See, if you go to Community Bridge website, over there you're going to see the mentorship programs. So ये सारे program मतलब collectively you will see over there. एक बार उस website पे जाके देखो, you will see a lot of programs.
One sec, I'll just
So there's
chat it.
people
Yeah,
who are into like blockchain and stuff, so like Hyperledger and stuff like that. So
that's
do
cool.
check it.
So
Yeah.
Community Bridge is like a repository of all these programs.
Yeah, it's like a website that hosts these sort of like
Mm-hmm.
mentorship programs for people to participate in. And by the way, it's not just for students, so anyone can take a part in that.
All right,
And it's
all
paid
right.
also. It's paid as well. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Let's switch topics. Let's talk a bit about like really basics of machine learning and web DevOps. What exactly is machine learning? How would you describe it?
Yeah, so machine learning is like a subset of AI. So you have your artificial intelligence, in that you have your machine learning, and in that you have your deep learning. So artificial intelligence is something that, let's say, in simple terms, mimicking, let's say, human behavior. So if you want to be like, is this a cat or is it a dog, the machine will tell me. Then what exactly is machine learning, and why does it come under the part of AI? How
Mm-hmm.
do I achieve AI? By building intelligent machines. That's the first point. How do I build intelligent machines? By learning. So by making the machines learn. So that can happen in a few ways, that you can give some sample data, machine can learn from that data, and then when you give some new input, then machine can compare it with the previous training data that you had and give you all the results. That is called that is called machine learning. So when your algorithm is learning, when your model is building, that is sort of like in simpler terms machine learning. So in this particular case, what exactly is like the intuition behind it? In machine learning models, naam sunoga, like models, these are basically just like mathematical equations. Okay, so what do we mean by machine learning? What is this learning thing? So you say that equation of a line, let's say, so you have y is equal to mx plus c. So in this particular case, y is my answer, x is my features, so my features, that the features that I provide, and the thing like m and c, which is like my slope and my constant. The machine learning algorithm is going to determine itself what is the value of these particular coefficients. So this determining of these coefficient values by itself, using gradient descent or something, minimizing the error, this is the process of machine learning. And this machine learning revolves around key for which particular data do I use which particular mathematical like algorithm to get these constant values. So in the end, it's
All
just
right.
mathematics and like your
Can you give an
statistics.
example? Can you give a real life example of machine learning?
You can say like for this example only, let's say y is equal to mx plus c. You can see there's this thing called like in linear regression, you have your housing problem. So in housing problem, in linear regression, it's basically like let's say there's just one feature for a house, which is square feet,
Okay.
and I need to predict the prices on that. So obviously, house that has a wider square field is going to cost more. So you can see this is like a linear graph, and obviously it's not going to lie entirely on the line. It's going to lie distributedly, so with some noise. So after that, what you need to figure out is, let's say if you're given like noises like this, you need to figure out a line that gives a general idea. So now if you give it another square feet, it's going to give you the price by comparing that point to the line. So that is sort of like an example, and all these things can come under that. Like you have your computer visions and stuff. You have your deep learning, which is sort of like I talked about, like machine learning builds that particular equation using the machine learning algorithms. You can do that via neural nets as well. So artificial neural nets and stuff. So that comes under deep learning. There's like then there,
So,
and then there's
YouTube
data
on
science.
Netflix recommending you some new show.
Yeah, clustering. So that happens using clustering. So and इस सबका mix कर दो, that is data science. So data science में सब use होता है. So
how do you
yeah,
get started with machine learning? Again, same example. I'm a noob. I know zero.
yeah.
I'm
So
just learning syntax.
if you wanna get started with ML, first thing like you need to see is like if you have like the basics of like Python and the tools that are required in ML, so like NumPy, Matplotlib, Pandas, stuff like that. And after that, the statistics and probability part, a little bit of calculus. I mean, you are going to require some level of in-depth calculations for deep learning, but for like machine learning part, I believe like 11 12 ki kafi hai abhi ke liye, if you're just starting out. And now comes the learning part. So learning a particular algorithm and particular subsets of machine learning, like supervised, unsupervised, reinforcement learning, uske andar bhi hota hai, like classification, regression, clustering, and all sorts of things. So every domain of these things is particularly for a particular subset or problem. So what you can do is har iske bare mein padho, and if you're learning a particular algorithm, make a project. Very, very important. If you don't make a project, तो दिमाग से निकल जाएगा. Make a project related to that. And there's another plus point that I would like to share. Very, very important point. If you want to use, let's say, a machine learning algorithm, कोई machine learning का algorithm use करना है, let's say linear regression use करना है. So there are like inbuilt libraries provided for it. Okay? So inbuilt libraries होते हैं, हम inbuilt libraries use करते हैं. But what if I told you, खुद से लिखो code? What if I told you that if you're using some particular machine learning algorithm, write that entire code by yourself? Wouldn't that be really nice? So you would also get the in-depth knowledge of, ठीक है, मैं inbuilt libraries तो use कर रहा हूँ, but I actually know how these libraries are written. So all these points that I mentioned, like mathematics, statistics, and everything, I covered this in the 30 days bootcamp we did on machine learning. So you want to get started with ML, Harish has posted like a link in the description. So if any of your friends also want to get started with ML, you can check out that link. Other than that, Andrew NG is really good. So his courses are also really nice. You can check that out
Classic
as well.
one.
Yeah, really god level machine learning. So yeah, I also uh, watched a few videos of him, and he's really good. Three Blue One Brown is another channel on YouTube. Really great
Okay,
channel.
can you say that again? I put as a banner.
Three
Three.
Blue One Brown. Three
Okay.
Blue One Brown. Please check the link in the description for the machine learning playlist. I assure you, you will get started with ML from the basics to the intermediate level. I assure you that.
So,
Yeah, this is a really good channel. Yeah.
all right. So, how do you differentiate machine learning from deep learning?
Yeah, in machine learning, like let's say in simpler terms, if you have like your inputs, you have your outputs, in the middle you have some machine learning algorithm. All right, so that is sort of like that is your ML, and it's not a this or that question, because deep learning is a part of machine learning.
Hmm.
So when I replace that particular algorithm with a neural net, so that becomes deep learning.
What's a neural net? Can you explain people?
Neural net is basically like mimicking the neurons that we have in our brain.
Brain.
So we learn from our previous experiences, and there's a lot of detailed maths, detailed.
Hmm.
The thing is that I cannot explain it without an animation, and Three Blue One Brown has done a really awesome job in explaining this
Okay.
thing like back propagation and stuff with their animations and stuff. So do
Hmm.
check their playlist on neural networks. They're like a 4-part playlist. Check that out. Basically, they
All right.
take the weights for the handwriting classification project. So that is like the hello world of machine learning, the handwriting
Hmm.
classification. So check out Three Blue One Brown for like more details. But that is the basic idea between, like, it's not a this or that question. Deep learning is a part of machine learning only, and machine learning is a part of AI.
Hmm. How do you differentiate AI from deep learning? I mean, as in like subset or whatever it is.
Superset. So AI, then ML, and then in that we have deep learning.
Okay, so what's the additional thing that AI provides which deep learning doesn't?
There can be many other fields like computer vision and stuff like that.
Okay, so that doesn't come under deep learning.
I mean, see, the thing is that it can be achieved via deep learning, but the actually thing that I'm
Hmm.
doing is how am I achieving AI? I am achieving AI via ML and deep learning. So that is a whole collective process. It's
Okay,
not like
okay.
this or that question. Yeah.
Hmm. All right. So, any other resources that you want to share apart from these YouTube channels to
Okay.
get people started?
With AI ML,
Hmm.
yeah, check out MIT OpenCourseWare. That's it's really good. Yeah, and
All right.
the
Yeah.
Stanford channel on YouTube is also really nice.
Hmm. Cool. I'll link them down later once the stream gets over. All right. Now let's finish it off with one simple concept. What is DevOps? Everyone has heard of DevOps. It's becoming
Yeah,
like I've seen it on a lot of LinkedIn profiles. What is DevOps?
DevOps is basically like, see, you have teams, people who are developing software, people who are deploying software, people who are
Mm-hmm.
like managing the servers and stuff, people who are writing code. DevOps is a mix of this. So it's like software
Mm-hmm.
development and the IT operations. In दोनों को mix
Mm-hmm.
कर दो, that is DevOps. So it's basically like a continuous cycle. So first, let's say you plan something. So you in open source, no project is like final. It's constantly like evolving. New and new versions come up. So first, let's say you are planning a particular project. Then you code it. Then you build it. Then you test it, and then you release it. After that,
Mm-hmm.
you deploy it, and then you just operate on it, and let people use it, and you monitor key, okay, what is the feedback that people are giving me, and all those things. So let's break it down like dev and ops. So in this particular cycle that I mentioned, the development part can be like, first you plan, then you code, then you build, and then you test. And what is the operations part? Then key that can be after you have tested your code, you can release it, deploy it, operate on it, and then monitor. So there are various tools for this as well. Like if you talk about, let's say, coding, so we use like Git and like other tools and technologies. If you're talking about, let's say building, so in building you can use like Docker, Kubernetes, you can use Maven, stuff like that. After that we talk about like testing, so everyone is aware about testing mein you can use like for JavaScript like Chai, Mocha, Jest, or if you're using Java, so you can use like JUnit or something. and then comes your continuous integration. So continuous integration is like your releasing process. So in a particular open source project, you're not the only one who's contributing. काफी सारे लोग contribute कर रहे हैं. सब कैसे मतलब एक साथ सबका कोड हम merge करें ताकि कोई conflict ना आए. So that constantly merging the code in the main project, that is your continuous integration. You might have heard about like when you submit a pull request in a good project, there are a few checks that are running. That those are like
Mhm.
your CI/CD pipelines, like your Jenkins and stuff. Yeah, and
All
that is
right. So
about it. And
the
then comes
entire
your monitoring.
process,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
entire process, right from ideation to deployment, is DevOps. That's what you're
Yeah,
saying.
yeah,
Got it.
yeah, and it's not like it's going on continuously. So it's not
Mhm.
like after
It's
you
like a
have
loop.
deployed, operated, then you have, let's say, then you're monitoring it. So after
Hmm.
you are monitoring, it starts again from where? Planning,
Hmm.
planning, coding, all those things. So yeah,
It's similar to,
it's like
it's similar to like starting up, because there's a book by Eric Ries called Lean Startup, which says
yeah,
that,
great
once
book.
you release your product, you should keep iterating it, get some customer feedback, and then, go back to the
Absolutely.
drawing board. So it's more of
Yeah,
like a loop in the same
yeah.
space.
And this entire ecosystem is really big also. So if you want to contribute to a particular part, then in open
Hmm.
source you can do that. I mean, there are like in the deployment section, let's say. So you're deploying your applications to the platforms and servers. For that you use like Kubernetes or Docker or stuff. So you can, these are projects like which are open sourced and really really popular in the world as well. So if you have that on your resume as well, that I contribute to these projects, so obviously तुम्हारे लिए अच्छी बात है that you're contributing to such big projects. So that is nice. You get to learn a lot of things as well.
All right. So let's sum it up. Any book recommendations that you have to people?
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita, really great book.
Oh,
I read it. It's a
translated
really, really
or?
um, as it is. You can read it. I read it in English, so it's
Mhm.
a really good book. Other than that, the one you mentioned, Lean Startup, is really good. Other than that, there's one called Soft Skills Infrastructure, and
Mhm.
that is also really good. But if you're talking about best book, I see a comment that books for ML for beginners. So the best book, I believe, like many people also agree, is
Mhm.
Hands-on Machine Learning with Scikit-learn and TensorFlow. This is the best book for ML. Do check it out. काफी
Yeah.
अच्छी book है ये.
Can you like really do stuff by reading books, especially in the field of coding?
Yeah,
Because
the
I don't
thing
really
is
believe
that
in books
yeah,
when it comes
the
to
thing
development.
is the thing is that depends on person to person. So people
Mhm.
learn via different ways. कुछ लोग मतलब वीडियो से पढ़ते हैं. Some people understand via videos. Some people
Mhm.
understand via documentation. I am the kind of person who understands via documentation. Some people understand
Mhm.
better via videos. So it totally like depends on you. And
Mhm.
this particular book on the screen is really really good for getting started with ML. It's a really good book. It's also suggested by a lot of other people as well. बहुत
Mhm.
अच्छी book है. Yeah,
Yeah,
do
it's
check it
quite
out.
popular.
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
really good.
So Bhagavad Gita, Lean Startup, hands-on machine learning, and what's the skills one that you said?
I had
Soft
it over
skills.
here somewhere. Let me share it. 1 second.
Yeah,
This
cool.
is a good book. Soft Skills by John Sonmez. So it speaks about like how to talk to people, how to be a good software engineer, stuff like that. So this is also software like about your career, how to market yourself and stuff. So yeah, so one thing I want to share about it is like there's this thing called personal branding. So if you're from
Mhm.
like a tier 3 college and you want to like get recognized, so obviously if you're doing something good, if you're learning something, then showcase it to the outside world. Once you get involved in open source, you will see that many people in the open source community are also hanging out on Twitter. So do
Mhm. Oh yeah.
if you yeah. So the thing is that if you are interested in networking with other people, meeting other people, showcasing your work, Twitter is the way to go. Twitter is, I believe, better than LinkedIn. So if you're active on Twitter, like it's a really good way to um, you know um, meet other people and get involved in the developer community. You can find my Twitter
Mhm.
in the link in the description if you want to ask any questions after the webinar. My DMs are always open. So
Mhm.
Twitter is a really
So
great
this is how
platform.
I use Twitter. I use Twitter for content because LinkedIn content is pretty much trash. It's just motivational quotes. So I use
Yeah.
LinkedIn to connect with people, like get phone numbers
Mhm.
or maybe email addresses, and use Twitter to
Yeah.
like follow good people. Because most CEOs, most top founders are on Twitter. You'll rarely
Mhm.
find them on LinkedIn, right? So
Yeah, once you
Twitter is
contribute to
amazing.
open source, once you
Hmm.
contribute to open source, कोई भी talk देख लो YouTube पे. So watch any talk on YouTube of any conference. The speaker is
Hmm.
going to say that, hey, if you want to connect with me on Twitter. No one is saying
Yeah.
connect with me on LinkedIn. Pick up any
Hmm.
talk. 99% of the time
Hmm.
is Twitter only. So Twitter is
I think
great.
it's because they can freely express themselves. There's like a short blurb. Plus, I think Twitter
Mhm.
is more of like an intellectual platform compared to the rest of them.
Yeah,
All
it's
right,
great to
man.
showcase your work. And yeah. Thanks for having me. It was great to me.
Yeah. So thanks, guys, for joining in. Do you want to take some questions or like 5 minutes if you have time?
Yeah, yeah, sure.
All right. Let's take some. Hmm.
Many bitsat aspirants.
Yeah.
And yeah, by the way, like I'm not talking about anyone in particular. So when I also made a video on various open source and like community programs. So
Hmm.
in that also I mentioned about like what some people do, but I didn't mention about that this is what the program is represented for. So it's not about like me. I don't really criticize anyone or something. If everyone is doing their work, then that's fine. Uh, because this is like a community, so I really don't support the competitive spirit, more like a collaborative spirit. So I believe that everyone's like opinions should be considered and taken care of, like everyone's, so not just like mine, but every other people who are on YouTube, and every webinar that I have done. So because if you're like if this is a community, then you should be like free to showcase your particular views if you're experienced in that field. That's what I try to do, that everyone is trying to help other people, and that is a really great thing. Yeah.
I think
Okay, we
we're
have.
having some issues fetching questions from YouTube. There's like a slight delay. That's why it's not loading up over here. In the meantime, someone's
Yeah.
asking, what do you like advise to tier 3 students? Like, how do they compete with all these other developers out there? Because they don't really have a platform to give them a head start.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, that if you're from a tier three college, the main thing that you're lacking is interacting with the outside world. So Google and all these companies, let's say the big companies that you might dream of interning at and stuff, they might not come to your college because it's a tier three college and stuff. So how do you actually be like how do you actually showcase yourself to the outside world? Well, you can build your developer profile. That is what I'm mentioning over here. So use LinkedIn, use Twitter, post content. So post anything that you're learning and anything that you're contributing to the community. And after that, attend events. I mean, currently most of the events are virtual, but pehle kafi like GDG, Facebook Developer Circles, they have really like they were really active in conducting the on-site events in the communities. So attend those events. Microsoft Student Learn Ambassadors, they have the events. So attend events. That is something that I can share with you. Network with people. Networking is a really good thing. So
Yeah.
other than that, have the thrill to learn and be find your passion. Find what you're interested in contributing to. Um, don't forget to don't be sorry don't be hesitant to ask for help. So that's
Mhm.
also good. And there's a
Someone's
question
like,
about like can we
mhm,
do
yeah,
gsoc in
continue.
C++? Can we There's a question, can we do gsoc in C++? Yes, you can. There are even like many projects like envoy proxy and stuff that use C++. Go to the gsoc website and just type C++. You will find various organizations that use C++.
Do you participate in hackathons? Which hackathons have you been to?
Not much. I don't
Okay.
participate in hackathons much. I did participate quite a lot in my first year, but
Hmm.
then I didn't get much time because of the like open source work. So I didn't get much time to participate in hackathons during that time. But I did get a few opportunities during the fellowship, like 2 months ago. So that was great. Yeah.
All right. When do you start coding? Like the formal coding thing. When do you like actually learn stuff to build projects or contribute
Yeah.
something
If you're
substantial?
just starting out with coding, go ahead and learn data structures and algorithms.
Hmm.
That is the most important thing. Please
From
don't
which
skip.
place?
MIT Open Courseware is nice. Um, there's this guy called Eric Though. He's a really good competitive programmer. He's like a really high level competitive programmers. His YouTube channel is really nice. There's this guy William Lin, I believe that's his name. He is also a really good competitive programmer. His videos are also really good. And other than that, there's like Gaurav Sen. His videos are also really nice. Rachit Jain, his videos are also really good for competitive programming and stuff. And yeah, I mean, these videos, these are the channels. We did a bootcamp on like data structure algorithms, and when I get some time, I will also post some videos on like competitive programming. So they will not be like your general uh, videos. It will be more focused on, let's say, we will pick a particular technique and do questions on that technique. But more on that later. अभी थोड़ा busy चल रहे हैं तो थोड़ा time बात करूँगा. But these are a good resources that I just mentioned. Yeah.
All right. So do you want to wrap up?
Yeah, if there aren't any more questions, then we can wrap up. But I see there are a lot of questions.
Very few about actually the topic. It's about something kind of random.
Which question? Let me just go through the
Okay,
chat.
what do you recommend? Doing projects or doing competitive programming to build your
Both,
profile?
both,
Yeah,
both,
exactly.
both. Because projects and open source and all these things are going to help you land an interview, but
Mhm.
competitive programming is going to help you clear the interview. So both of the things are important. Oh, that's a good
How do
question.
you?
What are the good sources? What are good courses for networking? Educative.io. Get it free for 6 months using GitHub Education Pack. There's a course
Mhm.
over there, grokking the networking interview. Top notch course है भाई, बहुत अच्छा course है.
Could you tell people what networking is?
Networking, how the internet works, and stuff like that. So that TCP/IP layer, OSI layer, and like
Mm-hmm.
OSI model, and all these things. Everything is mentioned in detail. How the data packets transfer,
Okay,
encoding, decoding,
let
and
me
stuff.
put a
So
banner.
everything.
What is it
Yeah.
called? Educative.
Educative.io, cracking the
Mhm.
coding interview. So sorry, cracking the networking interview, and there's another one like cracking the coding interview and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. Let me just go through the questions as well. I believe we skipped some. Okay. Let me see. I am in 11th class. How do I start coding for gsoc? बेटा gsoc के बारे में अभी भूल जाओ. Focus on you can focus more on open source. You can focus more on building your skills and strengths. I am really happy to see that you're interested in participating in these programs. And the thing is that the things that I mentioned right now, open source and learning these skills, ये और gsoc same चीजें हैं. So if you do these things, तो gsoc भी अपने आप हो ही जाएगा. So please focus on these things, and then when the gsoc applications apply, do check the YouTube channel that I have below. I made a video on Google Summer of Code. Check that out.
That's an interesting question.
And
Dark web कैसे access करना है?
डार्क वेब क्या होता है? डार्क वेब होता है आईपी एड्रेसेस जो हिडन होते हैं.
Mm-hmm.
सो उसके लिए तुमको बस एक आई थिंक ब्राउजर वगैरह चाहिए होता है. बट मैंने कभी किया नहीं, सो आई डोंट नो.
Okay, what's Google
uh,
Code in and what's Google Code Jam?
Google Code In was a program for high school students. Now it's closed.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And Google Code Jam is a competitive coding platform
Mm-hmm.
for people. And there's another one called Google Kickstart. So that is also a really
Mm-hmm.
good one. Other than that, there's Google Hashcode. So that is,
Mm-hmm.
don't listen to me. Go to googlecompetitions.com. ऐसे करके कोई website है. Go to that,
Mm-hmm.
and you will find all the competitions over there. But there's one more program we didn't talk about in open source. That is Google Season of Docs. So this is for people who really like contributing to documentation. They can
Mm-hmm.
take a part in this program.
Google Season of Docs, is it?
Yeah, GSOD. Okay, any other question? Let me see. 12th standard में ये और studies manage कैसे करें? I wasn't really good at my 12th standard either. So मेरे chemistry में काफी कम आए थे, physics में भी ठीक ठाक आए थे. My chemistry was the worst thing. So that is the reason
Mm-hmm.
that my scores got dropped. I didn't like chemistry. It's like 60s में आए थे, so that was really bad. पूरा CGPA
Mm-hmm.
down हो गया. So
Were you like coding during 11th and 12th grade also, like daily, contributing to open source or doing stuff?
no, I was coding, but not this intensely. So
Mm-hmm.
serious coding happened like in first semester only.
Oh, what was the motivation? What drove you to, do stuff?
My motivation was that I'm from a tier 3 college, and अगर कुछ नहीं किया
Oh,
तो, you know, so I
that's
knew कि
cool. Like a
yeah,
lot of people
my
just give up. They're like, oh, tier three, that's the end of the life. But you took it the
the
other way, and
motivation the motivation for me is my college is really amazing. I mean, I love my college because there is no
Mhm.
attendance issue. So first
Oh,
semester attendance 30%, second semester attendance 5%, third semester attendance 2%, and fourth semester attendance 2 classes.
hmm.
So I love my college. No
And how do
attendance
you pass exams, man? Like a day before the
issue.
exam, you hustle.
Exactly. Not even a day before. I study during when I'm in the metro, on the way to
Whoa,
college.
whoa.
That is the time I used to select you used to read the syllabus. Now it does not mean that I'm boasting. It does not mean that I'm
Mhm.
boasting right now, because boasting क्या होगा कि यार बिना पढ़े नंबर आ रहे हैं. I'm like कि मैं नहीं पढ़ा था और मेरे नंबर भी इतने अच्छे नहीं आ रहे. So I'm like I'm happy with an 8.0 CGPA. अभी मेरी जो CGPA है, it's around 8 point something, and I'm really
That's
happy
better
with it.
than mine.
That is a really good point, because talking about college studies, most people have this thing called कि college में तो यार कुछ नहीं पढ़ाते, college की studies तो बेकार है ना?
Hmm.
This is a mindset that some people have. That is not true. I score good without studying is because there are a few subjects that I really like, and I have genuine interest in learning about those. Compiler design, operating system, database management, networking, data structures, algorithms, data analysis, and stuff like this. These are all
Hmm.
the topics that अगर कॉलेज में नहीं पढ़ रहे ना, कॉलेज के बाहर जरूर पढ़ो. Please don't skip these topics. They are going to help you quite a lot. And
Hmm.
once you learn something with the motivation of like learning and not just passing the exams, then it's going to
Hmm.
really help you. Talking about other particular subjects that I didn't like chemistry or like manufacturing process. So I didn't study at all for anything. So for my
Hmm.
college exams, I don't study at all. That is the truth. And whatever I gain, I get from my past experience. I just go through the notes or something,
Hmm.
the previous year questions. That is also like that is why my marks in the second semester were like 7 CGPA. So I don't
Hmm.
recommend that. Please, if your college has like good placements, so I know in some colleges, if there are like on-campus opportunities, there's a cutoff for that, right? In
Hmm.
on-campus opportunities.
True.
So if there are so if there are good on-campus opportunities for you, don't be like me. Please focus on your studies as well. Studies be important होते हैं,
That
CGPA
brings me to
important.
an interesting question. Like, what do you recommend to people who are in other branches apart from computer science? How do they learn these courses?
Explore, build projects, network with people, and do open source. I know a person who is from like electronics branch, Facebook intern,
Hmm.
so off
Hmm.
campus that too. So I know many such people. They have done it via open source and their public relations. That is really
Hmm.
important. दो चीजों का ध्यान रखो बस, open source and just keep learning. Second thing
Hmm.
is public profile जो होती है.
Hmm. I
तो
think
कुछ
networking and being with
yeah.
like-minded people is something that really plays an important role. All right,
Yeah.
so let's wrap it
Mm,
up. Gotta go for
yeah,
dinner.
sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. And I see that we missed a lot of questions, but if you still have like any other questions, you can ping me on Twitter. My link is in
Good.
the description. And
Yeah.
yeah, thanks a lot.
Thanks a
Thanks a
lot
lot
for
for having
coming in. This was like one of the most valuable live streams I've done. And hopefully people learned a lot. Thanks guys for joining in. You can see 285 people. And see you. Bye. Take care.
me. Bye bye.